The night on Kareth 9 was long and cruel. The wind howled across the frozen plains, carrying sharp pieces of ice that could cut through clothing like blades. Ethan Hale sat alone inside his small research tent, staring at the flickering flame of his heater. It was the only warm light for miles. Outside there was nothing but snow, silence, and the endless dark sky of a distant world. He had been there for 3 months, collecting data for a mining corporation. The job paid well, but it was lonely, painfully lonely. The storms came almost every day, and the nearest human outpost was over 100 kilometers away. He hadn't seen another living face in weeks. As the wind roared, Ethan reached for his old communicator and played a recording of his sister's voice. "Stay safe out there, big brother," the message said softly. "Don't let the cold take you too." He smiled faintly, then switched it off. The silence that followed felt heavier than the snow pressing on the tent walls. Then he heard something. At first it was faint, a whisper, maybe just the wind. But after a few seconds it came again. A voice, a small, desperate voice. "Help, please." Ethan froze. No one should be out there. Not in this storm. He pulled on his thermal jacket, grabbed his flashlight, and opened the tent flap. The cold hit him like a slap. Wind and snow burst inside, nearly blowing out the heater. He squinted into the darkness, sweeping the light across the white world. "Hello?" he shouted. "Is someone there?" No answer. Only the sound of the storm. He started to close the flap when he saw a shadow move near the edge of the light. Small, weak. It stumbled once, then fell into the snow. Ethan's heart jumped. He ran toward it, boots sinking deep with each step. The figure was lying face down, a small body covered in frost and ice. He turned it over gently. It wasn't human. The face was pale blue, the skin almost translucent, glowing faintly from beneath as if light lived inside it. The eyes were closed, long lashes covered in frost. She was shivering, barely breathing. For a moment, Ethan didn't know what to do. He had seen many alien species during his career, but none like this one. She looked fragile, almost like a child. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked softly. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. He hesitated only a second before lifting her into his arms and carrying her back to the tent. Inside, he laid her near the heater and covered her with his thick blanket. The warmth began to fill the space again. After a few minutes, her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes slowly. Large, glowing silver eyes that looked straight at him. "Where am I?" she whispered. Her voice was soft, trembling. "You're safe," Ethan said gently. "You were out in the storm. You'd have frozen to death if I hadn't found you." She blinked a few times, her gaze wandering around the small tent. Then almost shyly she said, "Warm. I only need warm." Ethan nodded. "Don't worry. You'll warm up soon." He gave her water from his flask. She took a small sip, hands shaking. Her skin seemed to shimmer faintly in the firelight. It wasn't makeup or reflection. It was as if tiny lights moved under her skin. Ethan sat across from her, curious and cautious. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." "Okay, Lyra. I'm Ethan." There was silence for a while. Only the storm outside filled the air. Then he noticed something strange. A faint symbol on her neck, glowing like a living tattoo. It pulsed gently, rhythmically, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. "What's that on your neck?" he asked. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. She covered the mark quickly with her hand. "Don't touch it." Ethan raised his hands. All right. It's fine." "I won't." Her breathing quickened. For a moment she looked like she was about to cry. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have found me." "What do you mean?" "They'll come," she said. "They'll find me." "And you," Ethan frowned. "Who's they?" But she didn't answer. She just turned toward the heater, hugging the blanket tightly. He didn't push her. Clearly she was terrified. He could ask questions later. For now she needed warmth and rest. Hours passed. The storm outside grew even worse. The tent shook under the weight of the wind. Ethan added fuel to the heater and watched the girl sleep. She looked peaceful now, almost human in the dim orange light. But that strange glow on her neck never faded. It pulsed gently like a warning. Ethan leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He tried to convince himself she was just another stranded traveler, maybe part of a crashed ship nearby. But something about her didn't fit that explanation. Her clothes weren't made of any fabric he recognized. Her skin emitted its own light, and her body temperature was far lower than a human's. He decided he'd contact the outpost in the morning. Maybe someone had reported a missing person. Just as he was about to lie down, he heard a faint noise. Not from outside, but from her. She was whispering in her sleep, "No, please don't take me back. Please." Ethan frowned. What was she running from? Before he could think further, a strange sound echoed outside. Deep, mechanical, and far away. It wasn't the wind this time. It was something else. He turned off the heater for a moment, trying to listen. The sound came again, like a heavy engine moving through the snow. Lyra woke up suddenly, gasping for air. Her eyes darted toward the sound. "No," she whispered. "They're here." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Who's here, Lyra?" She shook her head violently. "You have to turn off the light, please." He obeyed, switching off the heater and flashlight. The tent fell into darkness. Only her neck mark glowed faintly, pulsing faster now. Outside, the sound grew louder, a low hum mixed with the crunch of snow. Then came another noise, sharp metallic clicks. Like machines moving in rhythm, Ethan peeked through the small opening in the tent. At first, he saw nothing. Then a red beam of light cut across the white darkness, scanning the ground. Drones. Sleek black drones moving slowly across the snow, their lights sweeping in circles. They were searching. Ethan's heart pounded. He looked back at Lyra. Her face was pale, eyes wide with terror. "They're tracking me," she whispered. "That mark and it sends a signal. They know I'm alive." Ethan's mind raced. "Who are they? What do they want?" She swallowed hard. "They want to take me back, to finish what they started." Before he could ask what that meant, the ground shook. A deep rumble that vibrated through the ice. Something much larger than the drones was coming. Ethan could see faint shadows in the distance. Tall shapes moving in the storm. Not human, not natural. He grabbed his rifle and motioned for Lyra to stay quiet. The tent was small, and if the drones got closer, they'd find them easily. Lyra pressed her hand against her neck, whispering something in her own language. The glow dimmed slightly, but not enough. "Stay here," Ethan whispered. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." He stepped outside into the storm, wind biting at his face. The red lights were closer now, sweeping across the ground. He ducked behind a snowbank and raised his rifle. The drones emitted a low buzz, their sensors glowing blue now. They were reading for energy signatures, and his heater had left one. He cursed silently. Then, one of the drones turned directly toward him. Ethan fired once. The shot tore through the drone's center, and it exploded in a flash of sparks. But that was enough to alert the others. 3 more turned instantly, lights flashing red. Ethan ran back toward the tent. "Lyra, move." "We have to go." She stumbled to her feet, still weak, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. "They'll see me." "Too late for that." The drones fired, beams of red light slicing through the storm. Snow burst into steam where they hit. Ethan pulled her out of the tent and ran into the white chaos. Behind them, the tent caught fire and exploded, sending a shower of sparks into the night. They ran until their legs burned, until the sound of the drones faded behind them. Finally, they collapsed behind a cluster of rocks. Ethan breathed hard, his chest aching from the cold. "What the hell is happening, Lyra?" She looked at him, eyes wet, voice trembling. "You shouldn't have helped me." Ethan shook his head. "You were freezing to death. What was I supposed to do, just leave you there?" Tears rolled down her glowing cheeks. "Now you'll die because of me." In the distance, the hum of engines returned, louder, deeper this time. Ethan looked toward the horizon, his breath visible in the cold air. "Not tonight," he said quietly. The wind picked up again, carrying snow and fear into the dark. Somewhere in the storm, the shadows moved closer, and the mark on Lyra's neck began to glow once more. Snow fell heavier than before. The wind howled like a living creature, crying across the frozen plain. Ethan and Lyra moved through the darkness, their breaths visible, their bodies shivering from the cold. The storm was cruel, but the sound of the engines behind them was worse. They finally reached a rocky cliff and took shelter in a small cave carved into the ice. Ethan helped Lyra inside and covered the entrance with a thick emergency blanket to block the wind. Inside it was still freezing, but at least the cave walls gave them some protection. Ethan switched on a small lantern. Its soft yellow light flickered across the frozen walls, creating ghostly reflections. Lyra sat silently, her thin hands wrapped around her knees. The glowing mark on her neck had dimmed a little, but it still pulsed faintly under her skin. Ethan dropped his bag and sighed. "We can't go back to the tent," he said. "They'll be tracking the heat signature. We need to stay hidden until the storm covers our trail." Lyra didn't answer. She was staring at the wall, lost in thought. Ethan looked at her closely. "You want to tell me what's going on now?" Her voice was soft, almost too quiet to hear. "You wouldn't believe me." "Try me." She turned her head slowly toward him. Her silver eyes shimmered in the dim light. "You think I'm just some lost traveler? But I was never supposed to be here." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra hesitated, then spoke in a trembling voice. "I was made here, on this planet, in a lab." Ethan's eyes widened. "Made?" She nodded. "I wasn't born. I was created. My people, we were part of a human experiment. Scientists wanted to make a life form that could survive in extreme cold. We were supposed to be a bridge between humans and the alien species of this system." Her hands shook as she spoke. "But it went wrong. They didn't want us to think or feel or remember. They wanted workers and slaves. When some of us began to question orders, they destroyed most of my kind." Ethan listened in silence. The idea sounded impossible, but the fear in her eyes was too real to ignore. "So that mark on your neck?" "It's a tracker," she whispered. "It connects to the base's main system. If I move too far, it sends a signal. I tried to remove it, but it's part of me now. Part of my blood." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "And those drones? They belong to the ones who created us. They're sent to bring me back, or erase me." She lowered her head. "I escaped the lab 2 weeks ago. I thought if I went far enough into the storm, they'd lose me. But I was wrong. The cold almost killed me before you found me." Ethan sat quietly, trying to process everything. He was a miner, not a soldier or scientist. He had seen corporate greed before, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. "You should have told me sooner," he said. Lyra looked up at him, eyes filled with guilt. "I didn't want you to die because of me." Ethan let out a tired laugh. "Too late for that. We're both in this now." For the first time, a small smile appeared on her face. Faint, uncertain, but real. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind scream outside. The lantern light flickered. Ethan could see how fragile she looked, her blue skin glowing softly, her hair tangled from the storm. She looked both human and alien, innocent yet haunted. "Lyra," he said quietly, "why do they want you back so badly?" Her smile faded. "Because I'm the only one left who remembers." "Remembers what?" "The truth about the experiment." She looked down at her hands. "They used human DNA too, from soldiers who died on this planet years ago. That's why I can speak your language. That's why I look like this. They wanted perfect obedience, but something inside me changed. I began to dream. I began to feel. They called it a defect." Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "So they kill anyone who starts to think?" "Yes, but they don't just kill, they erase. They burn the data, the records, everything. No one ever knows we existed." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Not this time." She looked up confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're not letting them erase you." Her eyes widened. "You can't fight them, Ethan. They have machines, weapons, scanners that can see through the ice." He smiled faintly. "Yeah? Well, I've got something they don't." "What's that?" "Bad luck," he said with a smirk. "And a lot of explosives." Lyra stared at him, unsure if he was joking, until he started opening his pack. Inside were small mining charges, used for breaking through frozen rock. He checked the timers, then began connecting them carefully. Lyra crawled closer, alarmed. "You're going to blow them up?" "If they're coming for us, might as well give them a welcome party." She shook her head. "They'll scan the explosives and shoot from the air before you even get close. Then we'll make them come to us," he said. "They'll think we're hiding in the cave, but we'll be under the ice." She blinked. "Under the ice?" Ethan pointed toward a narrow tunnel at the back of the cave. "There's an old ice fissure system below. My scanners picked it up a few days ago. We can go down there, stay hidden until the storm passes, then move toward the ridge. There's a signal tower about 20 kilometers east. If we reach it, I can call for help." Lyra hesitated. "And if they find us before that?" "Then we fight," he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, They packed their few supplies quickly. Ethan left 2 of the mining charges near the cave entrance, setting the triggers for motion detection. If any drone or machine came close, it would explode automatically. As they crawled through the narrow tunnel, the light from the lantern danced on the icy walls. The passage grew smaller, colder, darker. Lyra's breathing echoed softly beside him. After about 20 minutes, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The ceiling glowed faintly blue, lit by veins of frozen crystals. It was strangely beautiful, like walking through a dream. Lyra touched one of the glowing walls gently. "This place feels alive," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, nature's own cathedral." They found a flat spot near the center and set up a small heat lamp. The soft warmth filled the air again. For a moment, everything was calm. The storm above was just a distant rumble now. Ethan looked at her and said quietly, "You know, back on Earth, we tell stories about people like you." "Like me?" "Yeah, people who escape cages. People who fight to stay free. Heroes." Lyra gave a small laugh. "I'm no hero. I'm just trying to survive," he smiled. "That's how all heroes start." She stared at him, eyes glimmering. "Why are you helping me, Ethan?" "You don't even know me," he shrugged. "Maybe I see too much of myself in you. I used to work for the same kind of people who made you. They didn't care who got hurt as long as the money kept flowing. I left because I couldn't stand watching good people get used anymore." Her eyes softened. "So you ran away too?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "Guess we both did." They sat together in silence, the glow of the ice surrounding them like stars. Then suddenly the ground trembled. Lyra's eyes snapped open. "They found us." Ethan grabbed his rifle and looked toward the tunnel. "Already?" The sound came again, a distant metallic hum growing louder. "They're scanning the ice," she said. "They know we're here." Ethan cursed under his breath. "We're too deep for the signal to reach the surface. We can't call for help." Lyra closed her eyes, her hand on her neck. The mark was glowing bright again, brighter than before. "It's me," she whispered. "The tracker, and it's reactivated." Ethan stepped closer. "Can you shut it off?" She shook her head. "I tried before. It's connected to my nervous system. If I destroy it, I could die." He looked at her, then at the ceiling above them. "Then I'll do it." She stared at him in shock. "You can't. You don't know what it'll do to me." "Then I'll figure it out as I go." She grabbed his wrist. "Ethan, please. If you hurt me, it'll send a death signal. They'll know I'm gone and they'll destroy everything around us." He paused. His hand lowered slowly. "Then we need another way." Before they could plan anything else, a loud explosion echoed from above. The charges he'd left at the cave entrance. The entire chamber shook violently. Pieces of ice fell from the ceiling. Ethan pushed Lyra behind a large rock as a section of the tunnel collapsed. When the rumbling stopped, everything was quiet again, except for the distant mechanical noise that kept getting closer. Lyra looked terrified. "They won't stop. They'll keep coming until they have me." Ethan reloaded his rifle, eyes steady. "Then they'll have to go through me first." She looked at him, a human miner with no armor, no advanced weapons, no army. And for the first time, she saw something different. "Something strong," she whispered. "Why are you risking your life for me?" He looked at her with a small, tired smile. "Because you deserve to live. And maybe, because it's what humans are supposed to do." Her eyes filled with tears, glowing softly in the blue light. Outside, the sound of engines roared louder. The ice around them began to tremble again. Ethan raised his rifle and took a deep breath. "Get ready, Lyra, they found us." The air inside the icy cave was still, but Ethan could hear the sound of machines moving closer from above. The rumbling was deep, too deep for just drones. Something much larger was coming. Lyra sat near the glowing wall, hugging herself. The light from her neck mark flickered like a heartbeat, bright, then dim, then bright again. Every pulse made the air hum slightly, as if the cave itself could feel her fear. Ethan rechecked his rifle. Only 4 shots left. It wouldn't be enough against the kind of machines he had heard. He took a slow breath and looked at Lyra. "We can't stay here much longer. They'll break through the ice any minute." She didn't answer. Her eyes were distant, full of something more than fear. Finally, she whispered, "Ethan, there's something you should know." He turned to her. "What is it?" "The tracker inside me," she said softly. "It's not just a beacon. It's a weapon." Ethan frowned. "A weapon?" She nodded. When activated by my creators, it can release a powerful burst of energy, enough to destroy everything within a kilometer. Ethan stared in disbelief. You mean they can blow you up whenever they want? Her voice trembled. Yes, it's their way of control. If one of us escapes, they can end us instantly, but there's something else. She looked up, her silver eyes shimmering. If I release the energy myself, I can destroy the signal source that controls all the drones. It will stop them, but... She hesitated. Ethan's voice softened. But what, Lyra? Tears filled her eyes. It will kill me too. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The storm outside roared above the frozen ceiling. Ethan shook his head. No, there's got to be another way. There isn't, she said. If I don't stop them, they'll hunt you. They'll hunt every colony on this planet until nothing's left. He clenched his fists. You think I'm going to let you die to save me? Her lips trembled. It's not about you, Ethan, it's about freedom. If I do this, they can't create more of us. They'll lose control. Ethan stepped closer. Then we'll find another way to break the signal. We'll destroy the base or... She interrupted softly. You can't, it's buried under miles of ice. You don't have the weapons, but I do. He could see the determination in her eyes, the same spark that had kept her alive through everything. Ethan felt his throat tighten. Lyra, listen to me. You fought too hard to die like this. You deserve to live. You deserve a future, she smiled sadly. I've never had a future, but you do. Before he could reply, the ground above them exploded. Ice and rock crashed down as bright red beams cut through the ceiling. The machines had found them. Massive drones dropped into the cavern, spider-like metal creatures with glowing red eyes and spinning cannons. Their engines filled the air with a deafening roar. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. Run! They sprinted across the slippery ground as the first shots fired. Red beams sliced through the ice, melting holes through the floor. Ethan fired back, hitting one of the drones in its sensor. It exploded in a flash of sparks, but more followed. The cave began to collapse around them. Ethan, Lyra shouted, pointing toward a narrow passage on the left. This way. They dashed inside just as another explosion rocked the chamber. Shards of ice flew everywhere. Ethan shielded Lyra with his body as the tunnel walls cracked and groaned. When the shaking stopped, he looked back. The entrance had caved in behind them. They were trapped inside. He coughed, struggling to breathe through the dust. Lyra, you okay? She nodded weakly, but her glow was fading fast. The energy inside her was building. He could feel the heat radiating from her body. Her voice was faint. They're connecting to me again, trying to trigger the weapon remotely. Ethan knelt beside her. Fight it! Don't let them control you. I can't hold it much longer, she whispered. The signal is too strong. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. You listen to me. You are not their weapon. You're more than what they made you. Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan! But before she could finish, her body shuddered violently. The symbol on her neck blazed white-hot. The air crackled. Small bolts of energy sparked around her. Ethan realized she was seconds away from detonating. He had two choices, run or stop her. He made his choice. He wrapped his arms around her tightly and whispered, You're not dying alone. I've got you, she gasped, shaking her head. No, you'll die. Then we die together, he said. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The light from her neck spread across her whole body, turning the tunnel into a sea of white. But then, something unexpected happened. The glow began to shift, from blinding white to soft blue. The violent energy changed direction, flowing through Ethan's hands instead of exploding outward. He gritted his teeth as electricity surged through him. It felt like fire and ice at once. But he didn't let go. Lyra's voice broke. Ethan, what are you doing? He struggled to speak. Sharing the signal. Splitting it. We can drain it together. The energy burned through them both, lighting the whole tunnel. Outside, the drones froze in place as their connection to the control network flickered. Ethan's vision blurred. He felt his strength fading, but he held on. Finally, the mark on Lyra's neck went dark. The energy burst stopped. Silence filled the air. When the light faded, they both collapsed onto the icy ground. For a long moment, there was no sound. Only the faint hum of dying machines far above. Then Lyra moved weakly. She turned her head toward Ethan. He was lying still, eyes half open. Ethan, she whispered. He blinked slowly, forcing a smile. Told you. Not dying alone, tears rolled down her cheeks. You fool. You took half of it into yourself. You could have died. He gave a weak laugh. Could have, but didn't. She placed her glowing hand on his chest. The light spread faintly, healing the burns on his skin. You saved me, she whispered. He shook his head. No, Lyra, you saved both of us. They sat there in silence for what felt like hours. The storm outside had finally gone quiet. No engines, no drones, nothing. Ethan slowly stood and helped Lyra to her feet. She was weak but alive. The mark on her neck was gone, replaced by a small scar, pale and harmless. She looked at him in wonder. It's over, he smiled. For now. They climbed through the damaged tunnels until they reached the surface. The dawn light broke through the thinning clouds, painting the frozen world in soft gold. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the sunlight touch her face for the first time. It's beautiful, she whispered. Ethan nodded. Yeah, worth fighting for. They started walking across the snow, heading toward the distant ridge. Lyra leaned against him, weak but smiling. Ethan, she said quietly, do you think humans will ever accept someone like me? He looked at her, then at the rising sun. If they don't, then they'll have to deal with me first. She laughed softly, her silver eyes shining. You're strange, Ethan Hale. Yeah, he said. So are you. As they walked, the wind carried away the last traces of the storm. Behind them, the sky flickered faintly, the last dying sparks of the drones collapsing. But high above, in the orbit of Kareth 9, a satellite light blinked to life. A faint signal transmitted across the void, carrying one simple message. Subject L01 still alive. Far away, in a dark laboratory buried beneath the ice, a voice whispered, then the experiment continues. Ethan and Lyra didn't hear it. They kept walking together, two survivors bound by something stronger than fear. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly free. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt human again. They didn't know what waited beyond the horizon, more danger, more hope, or something in between. But whatever it was, they would face it together, because sometimes in the coldest corners of the universe, warmth isn't found in fire. It's found in someone who refuses to let you face the storm alone.